Hello Internet, we're gonna talk about the amazing Digital Circus.
What's up Internet? So I didn't really know how I wanted to do this video. I'm just kind of figuring out how to talk to myself for God knows how long every time. I guess bear with me here. I kind of want to keep this a little bit structured, so I'm going to talk about like my process again in this speed paint, and yeah, I'm gonna talk about that, but I'm also going to talk about what I was drawing because I really like what I was drawing, and that's why I drew it, because I really like the amazing Digital Circus, and I think that it's just such a huge step for indie animation just as a whole, and I think that it's really cool, and the success of glitch animation so far, I think it's done a lot to boost my confidence when it comes to posting long form content, just because I think it's super cool that they've been able to make it to the point where they can get their work in theaters, you know? Like, that's super cool. No matter what anybody says, that's super cool. But like, aside from that, I think a lot of people take things like this for granted a little bit. I think a lot of fans of indie animation and fans of the amazing Digital Circus in general have kind of missed the point in a way, because I understand where people are coming from when they say that they don't like that something that was originally 100% online is now becoming like mainstream enough to be in like theaters, and because people don't want spoilers, and I get that. But at the same time, I'm like, come on guys, we're all adults. If you don't want spoilers, don't click on those videos. Just remove yourself from the circus for a little while, because it's not that important. It's not so important that you have to keep yourself involved in it the whole time. Like, I get the idea of like the dopamine rush that you get when you find something that you really like and you can just dive into, and that's great. But if it gets to the point where you're trying to demand certain treatment from the people that are putting out this content, just because you want to watch the content on your own terms, I think you're getting a little too big for your britches there. I'm just gonna be honest. Like, we have to keep in mind, these are independent animation partners, I guess. These people are trying to make this a thing that can be sustainable for these animators and these artists that they've brought on to their team. From someone who is currently learning about the industry, I think that it's important to understand that fact, and I think that it's a little bit ridiculous to ask them to not take that kind of opportunity just because the fans might get something spoiled. I have yet to get anything spoiled. I wanted to get this video out before it even came out in theaters, because I wanted to talk about it, but I still haven't seen it, so same difference. And it's not like I'm trying to theorize anything and that it's going to somehow, I don't know, skew my opinion if I get something spoiled and then I make this video. That's not gonna happen, because that's not what I care about. I'm not a theory channel. I'm not trying to be a theory channel. I may have opinions on the plot, but that's strictly from the standpoint of like logical progression. You know, I'm not trying to decipher whatever Gooseworks is trying to put out there, because I feel like that's Goose's story to tell, you know?
We are
like
absolutely giddy to wait and see.
That's another thing. The situation with the creator, Gooseworks, I just think it's so sad that fandom can become so
overwhelming,
that the creator of a, for all intents and purposes, passion project that breaks through into the mainstream from a very niche fandom in its beginnings. I just think that it's so sad that the fandom doesn't see where they're wrong, like, as a whole. Like, I know that there's plenty of completely sane, rational people out there, and that the people that are crazy are kind of outliers, but the internet makes it seem not quite that way. And I just think that it should be called out more. I don't have a lot of the the social media where these issues are going down. So like anything that Gooseworks has said or that I have seen like complaints from the fandom about the show and about Gooseworks, about Glitch, all of that stuff is things that I'm getting that have like trickled onto my YouTube feed before I found out the release date, because I have been distancing myself from the circus. I've been removing myself from the circus because I don't want any spoilers. I want to go into the final episode with fresh eyes and optimism, and I don't want anyone else's opinions on the ending to spoil how I see it, because my impression of the circus so far, like as another artist, this felt like watching what went on inside another artist's head as they were imagining this wacky little world that they've been dreaming up for God knows how long. And I get very real, genuine vibes from Gooseworks from what I have seen. Again, I don't interact with them personally, so my opinion on them means jack shit, but I just think that it's so sad to have pushed an artist away from something that has become so beautiful. And I feel like Gooseworks, out of all of the people in this fandom, deserves to enjoy this outcome, this show, this creation, this finished product at this point, this finished project. I feel like they, out of all the people, should be the one enjoying it the most, but they are so ready to step back from it that it just feels as though they don't see meaning in their involvement in the project anymore. Throughout the very short run that it had, compared to most shows, but it told its story well. I know that people want more, but you have to look past your yearning for more of this vibe sometimes and just enjoy what you have, because at the end of the day, the point for the artist is to tell a story. I hope that Gooseworks is still proud of this, and I hope that one day people can get their heads out of their asses and just enjoy the story, no matter how long it is. Yeah. I wanted to draw like Kane going a little insane for this, because who doesn't want to draw the sentient dentures losing it? I really like the line where Jax is like, "Did you know that it's my dream to be eaten by you?"
That's a weird thing to say and want.
It was so funny, and yeah, so I drew him slurping up the gang, starting with Jax.
Making Bunny Boy's dreams come true.
I also, like, I wholeheartedly believe that, Bubble is the other AI, or at least a remnant of it. I understand that Bubble was deleted with King, and that is confirmed by Gooseworks, again, something that I got from a YouTube channel, not the direct source, but, it's, I believe it. I don't think anybody would make that up, especially because it was a screenshot, but yeah, I believe that Bubble is partly the other AI. Kane says the Bubble is an intelligent AI. Bubble has been put in charge of making things, which is not something that the other AIs are tasked with ever. And Bubble is the only other AI that does not get deleted when he's not needed. So I just think that that's a little bit of a hint, but I think of it as less that in the end Bubble wanted to be the new like main AI, and more that Bubble had like a self-destruct mechanism where it was like, yeah, you're a real problem. He decided to help Kinger out. Speaking of that, I think that the level of detail that went into the facts and the scenes with the coding in this is phenomenal. I've seen a lot of videos on what Kinger was actually doing on the computer and what some of the lines of code that he was trying to insert to fix Kane were actually meaning, and I think that it was really, really cool to see that. The attention to detail in something that's, again, an indie animated series is just amazing, and I love the show so much. I just love it so much. I love the characters. I think Zubul is like the realest one. She is just, or they, right? Yeah, they. They're the toy box character, and I just think that there's something so real as someone who has dealt with issues with my body around like gender dysmorphia and stuff, there's something so real about the abstractness of what Zooble must be feeling, and I think that a lot of people also overlook the body horror of this show. Like, Kane is a completely different story. He's a sentient son of dentures, but this is how he's always existed. He is a digital being, point blank period. He doesn't really feel his form, I'm sure. So his look, his appearance doesn't really matter. It just gives AI, and that's what he is. The cast, on the other hand, are humans. Whether or not they're clones, which I think would be more feasible, because I don't think that they're going to get out of the circus, and the only way for that to really make sense is for them to be computer scanned in clones rather than the actual people hooked up to a machine indefinitely. I don't know what the fuck is up with abstraction, so I won't even try to explain that. But it looks cool. I think it looks really weird, and I like all the different colored eyes. I will draw a million eyeballs everywhere all the time, right up my alley. Multicolored, even better. I think, yeah, people really overlook the body horror because Zooble, someone who is human, not a toy, and someone who already dealt with issues surrounding their body, now has very jagged, detachable limbs, and I think it's just so uncomfortable to think about being able to take your own arm off whenever you want. Like, even if it doesn't hurt them, it's still uncomfortable. I think Zooble's really cool because their personality and their character arc go hand in hand. They start off very standoffish, but also very real, and right up until the end, they remain very real, but they get more genuine. It goes from being, yeah, that's real, man, for sure, to, man, that's real as fuck. You didn't have to hit me with that, but you did. And I think that even though the lines, like the deliverance of a lot of it is kind of corny, especially with the little chat that they had with Jax at the end, I think it's reasonable to have corny lines like that in such a short thing. Like, it is what it is.
They needed to toss out a lifeline for Jax and make a point about the theme of the story in the process. Him and Zooble so far have done nothing but create distance. So having Zooble hold out their hand and offer an ear is significant. The power of digital friendship, motherfucker.
They could have come up with better delivery, maybe, but this is the show, you know? Like, it's been that way the whole time. So I can't really complain about something that is just the status quo of the show. That rhymed. But bars.
There was a bit of a ramble, but the point was, Zooble talking to Jax about their issues in this conversation reveals the main internal struggles rather than their actual physical body issues. Kane thinks Zooble's issues can be fixed with new parts. He believes they will then have no issues and begin to participate. Even though he attempts to be their therapist, he fails to see that all Zooble needed was time and understanding. Zooble gives and receives this treatment to Gangle, which changes their outlook. They then inform Jax that the same is available for him if he wants it.
And it's a dynamic that Zooble shares with Kane, where Kane is one of those people that just can't accept that not everything is about him, and he's very loud, being the sentient mouth that he is, and his design just embodies him perfectly, and it tells us who he's going to be from the very beginning, and so do pretty much all of the rest of the cast, except for Jax, who's a little more ambiguous, but they do kind of tell us who he's going to be, because they give us this image of Jax being the funny one, being the one that breaks the fourth wall and does Looney Tune-esque things. He's trying to be Bugs Bunny, but the big slug thing calls him a toy rabbit, and he's kind of rubbery. Methinks chew toy. Methinks dog toy. Methinks bro is lying to himself and everyone else. I don't know what his arc is going to be. I don't know where he's gonna end up. Right now he's spiraling. I was gonna try to talk about him at the end, end, but fuck it, we'll talk about Jax now. I think that people who like Jax and try to pretend that he's a good person are very silly. I think that people put too much weight on the idea that a character that is a good character must also be a good person, because I think there are a lot of good characters that are not good people. Harley Quinn is a good character. She's not a good person. I would say Peter Quill is a good character, but for a very long time he's not a good person. Also Yondu. I think Jax also falls under this category. Jack from the House of Jack Built, good character, horrible narrator, horrible person. It's a thing that can coexist. I think it's just sad that some people can't detach the idea of being a good person from the idea of being a well-made character, because I think Jax is a very likable character. I think he's funny, I think he is insane, and I think he's very suave in some points, and I think that his mask cracks just enough throughout the show to make me believe that he's deeper than what they have tried to show us so far. And I think that it doesn't have to be deeper in the sense that he's actually baby boy good person. I think he's losing it. He's breaking, he's not doing well, he's taking it out on other people. That's not justifiable or good, but it doesn't make him a bad character. Might make him a subpar human, but he could be redeemed, you know? And he doesn't have to be either. I would still like him even if he messes around and destroys the entire circus and must also be deleted. I don't think that I would hate him then. I think that it would be an interesting concept to have it end like that. I don't think that's how it's going to go. I think that there will be some kind of redemption for Jax, but I think that will either be very unsatisfying or very bittersweet. And I think that about like the end of the show in general. I think it's either going to be very unsatisfying or very bittersweet. And I think a lot of people are not as prepared for that as they think they are. I think that it's very telling that Gooseworks told us from the very beginning that this story was about finding meaning in a stagnant life. So however this ends, I don't know if we're going to end with the full cast intact. I don't know if we're going to get more characters back. I don't know how it's gonna go. I know that it's gonna be a tearjerker. It's gonna make me cry. It's gonna be something I'm gonna come back to, and I'm gonna have a lot to say. I'm gonna have a lot to say about it visually for sure, and I'm going to have a lot to say about how evil Gooseworks is for destroying everyone like that. I haven't even seen it, and I just know it's going to crush me inside, and I'm gonna love it. I'm gonna rewatch it. I'm gonna say, give me more, please, Gooseworks, right here on this plate that I have, because I'm ready to devour it. And I'm going to eat that pain with a smile on my face. I like Gangle a lot too. I think that it's also evil of Gooseworks to design a character that is not only so mentally fragile, but physically fragile that they are porcelain and ribbon only. Like, that is not only peak character design, but peak torture. It's truly baffling how easy it is to make something that is visually appealing and conceptually terrifying. Imagine being made of two masks, one of which breaks all the time, and a piece of ribbon. I just wouldn't be able to function. I understand Gangle's hang-ups all the time. Like, I understand their constant state of dismay. I get it. I'm sure that that's not why they're depressed. I'm sure that they were like that before, but if that's how they feel about themselves, if that's what perfectly encapsulates our mind files, I think that I understand them. I don't know enough about BPD to say whether or not I think that that's what their masks represent. I think there's a good argument for it from what I do know, but I'm not a doctor, so I don't know. But I do see like a lot of the extreme ups and downs with Gangle, especially with how fragile their mask is, that it breaks all the time and they suddenly go from being like super happy to super sad. But I think that it's also a really cool visual marker for their journey through their arc, even though we don't get nearly as much from Gangle, like, explaining as we see their arc, because most of it is focused on Pomni, Jax, and Ragatha, and then a little bit of Kinger. But I think that it's really, like, a really cool visual aspect that they go from needing the comedy mask to make them happy, but it breaking all the time, and then having their tragedy mask simply allow them a further range of expressions later on. I think that's really cool, and it's a great way to show a character healing visually. It's the coolest thing, I think, about Bangle's design, is the way that it was utilized to show their art. I think that Ragatha is also a cool character. I think that she has one of those backstories that is kind of on the nose with her design, but I think that's pretty cool. I like characters that are like that. She's Raggedy Ann. She's nostalgic. I think that it's cool that she's got so many Raggedy Ann and Andy references, especially like the quote from the movie. I think that was really cool. I think she's very much anxiety ridden, and I get her a lot. She says a lot of things, and then she goes, "Ugh, that was rough," and I get that. I get that, especially when she blows up Jax pretty reasonably, in my opinion, and then Pomni's like, whoa, calm down, even though she was just like, yeah, you can be an asshole sometimes, but then Ragatha kind of took it a little overboard, just a little. At the same time, I'm sure that she's been done with Jax. I know that she has a little bit of an arc. I feel like she's become a little bit more genuine since the beginning, but I think that she's definitely still trying too hard. I hope that she learns to get over that in the end, and I hope that she's a really good crutch for Pomni, or even becomes I hope that she can become the one to help save Jax the way that she wanted to, because her and Pomni clearly have a similar goal. They want to help Jax, and they want to get through to him, and I hope that they accomplish that. I'm not sure if they can, because Jax just seems very stubborn, and I think that that's one huge character flaw that's kind of the coin toss here. It's just whether or not he's going to become a huge issue and then not be able to be reached, or if he's going to become a huge issue and they're going to have to work together to talk him down. Again, not a theory channel, so I think that it would be a really cool arc for them to set aside their differences and really bring home, like, the meaning of, we are all we have, guys. Like, that's the theme, is they are all they have. And I mean, honestly, if you think about it, from the very beginning of this show, nothing's changed. Not a single thing has changed since Kinger arrived in the circus years ago. Nothing's changed. They were a bunch of programmers stuck in a digital world, in digital bodies that probably made them very uncomfortable and dysmorphic, going on adventures they didn't understand and didn't see a point in, with people who they either didn't remember or didn't remember just the names of, and they all slowly, for lack of a better word, died. Like, I don't know what abstraction is, but you clearly can't come back from it. I don't know if Kane could have fixed it. I don't know if it's something that's fixable at all. I don't know if they can fix it now that Kane has been deleted. I'm not sure. I feel like there's something to be said about the little dot animation in the beginning, where we see Kane's backstory when he started spitting out more chaotic things, that probably represented some kind of abstraction, and that might be what it is. It could be that their mind files are abstracting because something in Kane's code is flawed, and whenever they input certain data into the lines of code, it causes that kind of glitch. I don't know. I'm also not a computer nerd, so I'm just guesstimating, like, with the story, with the plot. I don't know. I think that would be really cool. For lack of a better term, that's death. And I think that the only thing that's changed is that a couple of new people have come in, but so far they've all gone down the same pipeline of, God, what the hell have I done? I didn't know that putting on this crusty dusty old headset would bring me here. How do I get out of this? To, there's no way to get out of this, is there? To, I'm going to go along with the adventures because it gives me something to do. To, I want to make friends because these people are the only people I have. And then some of them lean more towards the, what are we even doing here? Why are we still alive? What is my purpose? Should I keep going? How do I get out? I want out. I don't want to be here anymore. This is too much. And then they just abstract. And from what happened with Jax, I don't know if it's the same for everyone, it seems to be like a calming experience, and it seems to be very trippy. I think it's probably more like the computer trying to satisfy them as they become agitated, because again, it's just lines of code, so thinking logically, Kane or program or whatever is attempting to rectify some onslaught of chaotic input from a very complex human brain, and it just can't fulfill whatever, it can't fix whatever is wrong with a person, like say depression or anxiety or whatever, and you start to slowly go crazy. And then to rectify whatever is, I'm assuming, overloading the system,
like the command from cough mode for an exit that doesn't exist.
calm them, and in doing so, they abstract. And that's just the life cycle in the circus. And aside from that, everything is stagnant. Nothing moves. Nothing changes. Even if you break something, eventually it's gonna go back to normal because Kane is there to fix it. And Kane doesn't change ever. He just creates slightly different versions of cliche adventures and new characters with different AI that he's trying to make them more and more real, but it's just slightly off and wrong, and it's unsettling sometimes, especially with like Gummy Goo, because he's very much amorphous, and his goons are as well. They have arms that are too long or too short, and they're too fat or too tall. It's just wrong, but it somehow fits into their character designs. I don't know. But it's uncomfortable how smart Gummy Goo is specifically, and how wrong his associates are. It's a little uncanny, honestly. And I think that just shows how advanced Kane had made himself. Also showed how flawed he still was. I think those little details are probably important as well, just because, like, keeping in mind Kane is AI, so what would a human do to try to replicate the chaos of AI? Gummy Goo and his friends. Basically. But yeah, I think they're really cool. I think people put a little bit too much into the idea that Pomni is not developed. I think that they developed her okay. They gave her a backstory. She was kind of mundane, but most people are. And she did videos on YouTube about going to abandoned places. Like, she's not an interesting person. She's not supposed to be. And she seems to kind of be a loner a little bit, just because I'm assuming her job was very time consuming. She didn't mention having any romantic interest outside of the circus. She didn't mention having anyone to go back to. She doesn't seem concerned that anyone's gonna miss her aside from the grocery store. She just kind of accepted it a little bit. Like, she wanted out, obviously, but she wasn't freaking out about missing anyone. And it's kind of reasonable that we don't see any of the other characters freaking out about missing anyone immediately, because they've all been there for a while. They've been there for years, as Jax says. But we do see later on that Zubul and Ragatha may have someone on the outside. Kinger doesn't, because everyone came in with Kinger, who he was waiting for. Unfortunate. Also, I loved the sequence with Gummy Goo and Pomni. I won't lie. I think I definitely could have brainstormed something that wasn't Gummy Goo, but I'm not disappointed with what they came up with, because it was genuinely frightening the first time. Like, it wasn't like scary, like, oh, shiver me timbers, but it was one of those, ooh, that was slick, that was cold, I liked that. Like, from an animation standpoint, just the timing and everything of the lights going out, it was really nice. Obviously, Jax's was so cool, like, I didn't expect them to skin him. Zubul's was as to be expected. Unfortunate for poor Zuby. Yeah. I think that's almost everyone. I like Kinger a lot, obviously. Everybody likes Kinger. He's learned so much just from existing where nothing matters, And I think that his insanity is it's a coping mechanism of sorts, I think, so that he doesn't have to live in the reality where his friends and his wife are all gone. And I think that it does say something that he continues to allow himself to get attached to all of the new people, even if he's not entirely aware of that attachment. At most points, he does seem to register them as new people and keep that in his noggin, in his memory, because obviously he doesn't treat Pomni as if she's a new person whenever he first goes sane around her. So he clearly remembers remembering things. He has a little bit of trouble staying in the moment. I think he definitely dissociates a lot so that he doesn't have to think about the fact that everyone he knows is gone. And I think that's probably the only reason that he survived so long in the circus, and I think that that's the only reason that he made it through a point of time where he and Kane didn't talk, because it's very clear that Kane just allowed him to wander and didn't make him any solo adventures in the time between when Kane abstracted and when Ragatha got there. And I think that Ragatha's reaction to entering the circus also proves the point that I was talking about earlier with Pomni, that she's probably lonely and doesn't have anyone that could have further fleshed out her story, because Ragatha immediately turns around and starts asking someone to help her take the headset off, realizes she can't do it herself, and she wants someone who's with her to help her. And I think that that's also something to be said for the idea that they're clones, because if Ragatha had someone with her, they would have helped her. Like, wouldn't still be in the circus if it was possible to leave. So I think that that's probably where they're going with this. I will miss Bubble so much. Bubble is like my favorite character in the entire show, and I'm going to miss them. I draw them on my pizza boxes at work. If I make myself food, I draw Bubble on my sticker. One time I did that, and my boss told me that I left something on the heat rack the night before, and I said it was gross because I drew Bubble on it, and they were going, "Disgusting!" I actually quite enjoyed what was in that box. It was feta beef stick. Yum yum yum. Untitled, even though that would be kind of like the filler episode in most shows. I think it's really the most important episode, because it's the one where we see these characters thrown into so many different scenarios, and we get to see the capacity of this world and Kane's capacity for creation, and we get to see these characters in different levels of pressure depending on the scenario that they're in. That was a really good one to go with right before they got into the seriousness of it all, because before that it had just been mostly like silly and then a little bit of horror here and there as we see Kane just being himself and being unsettling in the process, and all of the AI horse crap that he produces, and it's really cool that they followed that so well, and then took us straight from Untitled, this beautiful little sequence of events that is so telling for the dynamics, straight into Jax losing his mind, Kane losing control.
Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe.